All right.
Here we are. Where do we start? Well, we start where we start like we always do, in reverse.
In reverse. We just got back from having dinner in Colorado Springs with our, I would say, dear friends.
Yes.
Brian Stacks and his wife, Dree.
Yeah.
And Andrea. Yeah, it was pretty fun. We were in old Colorado Springs, which, oh my gosh, the views.
Yeah.
The giant peak, like snow-covered.
So crazy.
And we were talking about, like, all the houses around there are just...
They're just normal little houses.
Normal little houses.
With these spectacular views.
Yeah. And they have a cute little downtown area with some restaurants and stuff.
Yeah.
And we went to, I think it was OCC.
Yeah, it was OCC. What does that stand for?
I guess Old Colorado. Oh, it's Old Colorado City.
Oh,
the actual downtown
yeah.
is called Colorado City. But we got to hang out and sit with those guys and talk for a few hours. We try to catch up. I mean, ideally we would do it more, but, you know, everybody's busy. So we...
So every year without fail, we hang out with Brian and Dree.
every year without fail. And we... yeah, and we messed up a little bit because it was apparently Territory Days, which is a big festival down there, and it was just slammed and packed. Mm-hmm. And luckily they got us into the brewery, and we were able to sit right down. But it was boy, what a fun time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful, fun. It felt like going on vacation, and it was just an hour and 20 minutes away.
Yeah. So that was one fun thing we did this week.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to end these things on laugh breaks.
And that wasn't funny.
And that wasn't very good. You know, you try.
That also wasn't 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Oh, well.
We'll keep doing it. We'll get better as we go along.
We'll get better as we go along. We've only been doing this for years now, so give us a little break.
2.5 years in now.
2.5 years.
2.5 years. We haven't missed a week in 2.5 years. Can you believe that?
That is very impressive.
With all these people listening and counting on us.
And
it's very important that we never miss a week.
It means so much to us, though, when people mention that they listen to it.
Oh,
you know what I
we
mean?
saw Nate this morning.
Oh, my gosh.
First time since he became a dad. Hi, Nate. Because he came for a photo shoot that we're going to talk about. And he mentioned that he's been keeping up with the podcast. And I was like, really? Like,
yeah.
You know, he said sometimes at 3 or 4 in the morning, you know.
Yeah, when he's up.
With the baby.
With the baby. But, yeah, his whole family looked healthy and happy. And that little baby is cute as could be. And,
cutie.
Just seems to have a real good energy.
Yeah.
For a baby.
You know, we come across a lot of babies in our line of work.
Yeah, some of them are a little surly. Anyway, I have no idea what we're talking. I'm never around babies. But, yeah, anyway, it was great to see. So the reason we ran into Nate was because we had...
Because we told them to show up.
Because we told them to show up. No, you put together a photo shoot for Performance High.
Yeah.
To get all the teachers' new...
Most of them, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Shots, yeah.
Most of them. I think 9 people? Was it 9?
It was 9 people,
yeah.
Including you and me.
Including us, yeah. Just some more professional headshots.
Yeah.
And we sort of like decorated Studio One, and I didn't really see much of any of them, but the little bit I saw, it looks really good.
Yeah. Yeah. We had gone back and forth about whether to do a backdrop, like a plain background, or something that had some context. I was more in favor of the context because I didn't want it to get too stuffy and
good point.
Corporate.
Yeah, right.
Which I don't think the backdrop is necessarily what would make something feel stuffy and corporate, but I kind of like, we've got a good vibe in that studio and in a lot of the studios, and I wanted to have some cool, like, we use the LED lights to light up the wall a little bit, and we left the hanging lights that are like hanging from the ceiling, we left those in. So
the background was a drum kit and the guitars hanging on the wall.
Yeah, you don't see much of the drum kit.
You don't, but yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, it's better than it looking like, like college yearbook photos or some stuffy.
Yeah. Oh, you can see guitars on the walls.
Yes, right.
So that's
exactly.
Cool. I mean, they're all, out of focus because it's focused. But anyway, so the photographer is a student at Performance High.
I gathered that throughout the day as we were kind of hanging out. Yeah.
Yeah, Angeline, she is one of Joe's students, and the reason I contacted her for the photos is because when Joe played in Sweeney Todd,
Which we talked about. Yeah.
she took his headshot, and he was like, yeah, it was super quick. She just like said, stand over there, and she went shoot, 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 and then this amazing headshot came out.
Right.
So I thought it would be cool to, give back to her for being a student of ours and hire her for that. So she was super professional, had great lights, had great management skills in terms of the pre and running the thing.
The guiding people through the photos
Yeah.
and getting the reactions and stuff out of them. Not reactions, but, getting them to pose
Different
and then also
vibes and stuff,
getting them
different
to,
looks.
I thought it was really interesting how she was so interested in the photos being a little kinetic. Like,
Yeah.
like, hey, kind of move and then snap and then move and then snap, which is, she was taking it seriously enough to want the photos to have some life to them, not
Yeah.
just, hey, there's a nice picture of that person.
Yeah, well, I put together a Pinterest board to give her some idea of the feel that I wanted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that part. Yeah.
Because I wanted welcoming and fun and approachable, but professional at the same time.
Right.
So I didn't want, like theater headshots are always very.
Yeah.
I mean, they're friendly, but they're very high art,
Yeah.
And I wanted something that says, "Hey, you can hang with us. We're fun.
Right.
Come be part of our community."
Yeah.
So anyway.
So anyway,
that's great.
it went great, and everybody seemed to do really well. And
Yeah, I can't wait to see them next week.
Yeah. So that was what we did this morning, and then of course we went and hung out with Brian in what a cute little part of town. We don't get to that part of Colorado Springs hardly ever because it's not where the venues are.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
that was our day today because we always go backwards.
Yeah.
So,
Well, going further backwards, I can talk about my gig last night
right.
at a new venue. It is both a new venue to me and a relatively new venue. It's called Rockstar Music Hall, and it's in Centennial, which is far southeast Denver. Not quite as far as Parker, but getting close.
Right.
And it's in one of those big buildings that has a bowling alley and like video games. I mean, kind of like Chippers, but way bigger.
Yeah, from the pictures, it looked
Huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
you said that was a downside because it was like very live room.
Yeah, the room did not have any anything soaking up any reverb. It's a big box. And it looks really cool. They've got these paintings on the walls that are like 4 squares.
Yeah.
Kind of the Andy Warhol style
yeah.
Campbell soup cans.
Sure.
But they're like Taylor Swift or Elvis Presley
Oh,
or
neat.
Pink or Paul McCartney, and then there was 1 or 2 more.
Yeah.
Famous artists, obviously, but in vibrant colors, 4 different versions. So the decor was pretty cool. The sounded really good out front, actually.
The word on the grapevine is that they've got like a very professional system put in, that the actual equipment is very good.
Could be.
Yeah.
It's not. At least part of it is not installed. Like it had to be set up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it's a portable stage that they leave up, but it's a portable stage on the floor.
Oh.
And the sound engineer had to place monitors on the stage. I mean, I guess that's true at Nisi's too. I actually did not pay attention to where the house was. I don't even know where the house speakers were. So
Yeah.
they must be installed. They weren't on stands or anything.
Okay, so they must be hanging.
They must be hanging. So that must be why it sounded so good out front. Because I was out front for one song that Jacob has no harmonies on. And it sounded really great. I will say, on the stage, it was very hard to hear anything.
Yeah, you mentioned.
Very hard. Just a big, blurry mush. But it's also because I didn't have a monitor in front of me because Kristen needed the monitor. Because I have in-ears, and I'm like, shoot, take the monitor, no problem.
Yeah.
Even so, like, she couldn't hear me at all.
Wow.
At all. I mean, she even had me turned up, and she was like, she was observing afterward how difficult it was to do harmonies without hearing me, because she's dead on with her harmonies. I mean, she knows.
She's great. Yeah.
She knows what she's going to sing. But she still sings harmony in relationship to the other singers. Like, she'll tune a little sharp or flat depending on where the singer is.
Right.
She wants to, like, she's not just hitting her note. She's like, I know I sing a C sharp here, blah, sing a C sharp. She knows, she's listening to all three harmonies or whatever other voices and making sure that they blend and that they stack well. And she couldn't even hear me bouncing back from the room.
Wow.
So,
and
weird.
that's just the kind of the echo in the room kind of
Yeah, I think-
obscuring things.
yeah, I think
yeah.
so.
Yeah, there's some rooms like that. It's interesting you say that because I was just working on that last night at the studio while you were at the gig, and I was tuning some vocals, and almost always, very often, will do the same thing, tuning vocals, like, it's like auto-tune, but it's not auto, like you're going in and you're manually changing the pitch of
Yeah.
stuff. And very often, a harmony part will need to be flat or sharp. Like if you're looking at the little lanes the computer gives you, that's not perfect, but it doesn't sound right perfect. It needs to be just a little flat or sharp sometimes to fit,
Yeah.
just to kind of temper.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, so it's...
where music is an art.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah, you just can't hit, at least with a lot of styles of music, you just can't hit, like, knock everything to technically, scientifically in tune, and then it sounds good. It sounds a little funny.
Well, then there's the whole question of, like, being in tune is not a thing anyway when you start looking at, like, the way the harmonics line up.
That is an excellent point that I've run into before. You kind of hipped me to that, like, the harmonics of a note can be out even though the fundamental of the note is out. Like,
well, not only that, but what I'm saying is, like, across a scale from one note to another note, from, say, A to A, the fifth is relatively in tune on a piano.
Right.
The fifth is pretty in tune, but a lot of the notes in between that are decided to be certain notes, like B flat and C and C sharp,
right.
they're off because of just temperament versus
Right.
what
Even.
are those even temperament. So
Right.
what pianos today are tuned as just temperament, right?
I think their tune is even temperament,
Oh.
so that you can play in all keys.
Right,
And what they
right.
used to do is optimize the tuning of the piano to a couple of keys,
Right.
so that
Right.
C would sound good and G would sound good and F would sound good. But if you went to B flat, you'd get into trouble.
Right. And this isn't going to make any sense to our moms. But
No,
I
this
think
isn't-
musicians are going to know. But
Yeah.
the point is that, like, humans have picked a scale in Western music that rounds some tones to an even distance apart. But that literally makes them out of tune with each other.
Right. It's sort of like averaging, but
Yeah.
the average isn't the ideal.
Right, it
You're
doesn't
just
sound
if you
the best
if
because
you
of
look
the
at it
harmonics.
mathematically, but that and then some of it is just I've really been thinking about this a lot lately. Some of what we hear is so much based on sense memory, where you almost hear sort of like how it feels and stuff. And there's like famous all-time greatest vocal deliveries that aren't that perfectly in tune.
Mm-hmm.
Or certain notes in the scale, when these famous singers sing them, it's like, well, it's right in between a major third and a minor third.
Yeah.
And you just have, from hearing decades of recorded music, you have that sense memory of like, oh, that's right. And if you
Yeah.
look at it mathematically, no, that's not right. But
Right.
that's just what you've heard and absorbed and
Yeah.
all those things, where like certain notes in the scale are, they need to be slidey for it to sound right in certain genres,
Yeah.
So I'm glad we went down that wormhole.
Yeah. Anyway, it was really fun to play. Got to meet a few new people. Got to see Bijou on bass. We had
That's
got a
so
chance
great.
to hang out.
Yeah.
Bijou Barbosa, who, I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast, so I will go ahead and tell it. Way back when I was having my first ever recitals, and this is before we resumed them as a band, but I tried to have a couple of recitals really early on when I was still teaching out of my basement.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
I wasn't that involved, or if at all.
I mean, yeah, it was an idea that I think my business was too young to really effectively take on. But basically, I was hiring a band to back singers, like we do at showcases now. And I didn't know very many people, but I did know about Bijou Barbosa because he's been famous in Denver for a very long time.
Yeah.
And so I contacted him and asked him if he would be willing to play the gig for whatever money it was that I offered, which was very low. And I still to this day remember his very polite and generous decline of that gig with an explanation of why he could not play it. And I respect him so much.
There is a real lesson in that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Being graceful even with the no's is, you know.
And I mean, that door has stayed open forever, you know, like I wouldn't say we like hang out, but I would say we're friends.
Yeah.
You know, and we love seeing each other. And he took a moment to educate me so politely and gently, not being like, oh, here's another shitty gig. And
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah.
you don't know anything, which I didn't.
Right, but still, like, no need to be whatever.
Yeah.
That is so great. And I've said, I think on the podcast before, and I think this is true of a lot of the musicians that we like playing with, but there are those guys who do not waste a note. Like, if a note does not need to be there, it does not get played. Mm-hmm. Like, theoretically, you could jam another note or two in between those two things. And I've been so impressed the couple of times, and like maybe 2 times that I've seen Bijou play, where just like, if another note isn't needed, it doesn't get played. It's just like, you know, it's sort of like the game I sometimes play when I do session guitar work, where I'm like, what are the absolute minimum number of notes I can do to play through this whole song? Like, what's the least I can do?
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me of how I felt about my voice at this gig.
Oh, yeah.
I was telling you. So I have been slacking on my vocal practice, that is for sure, because, you know, not a whole lot of singing gigs right now. I mean, I sing a little bit in my lessons because I do some warm-ups with people and illustrate stuff. And I did one singing session like on Tuesday.
Right.
Knowing that I had a gig coming up. But anyway, I felt spectacular at Jacob's gig. I had 3 leads, all of which I've sung for 20 years now. But I guess I felt so smooth and silky. I felt so agile. I felt so expressive. I felt like I was at the top of my game vocally. And I don't know why. But I'll take it. And you were guessing it was just a level of comfort with who I am and the situation and not overdoing it. Like I was under singing a little bit.
And you were saying performance-wise, meaning like physical performance-wise, not the musical performance, but whatever. You were feeling comfortable being understated and I don't know the right words. You were feeling like powerful without.
I was feeling like a queen. Like like just I'm at a point in my life right now. We talked about it on the last podcast where I feel like the sky is opening.
Yeah.
And I feel like everything is possible, and I think that's just bleeding into everything where I was on stage and I felt like I don't have to like jump around to be interesting. Like I know what I can do and I can do it well, and I'm going to stand here and do it.
Yeah.
And that came across in I think 3 of the best covers I've done in a while.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe you were just feeling like calm and centered and like I don't need to push. I don't need to overdo it. I don't need to win. You know, I can just do what I do and it's going to translate and you know. Yeah.
There's a power in just knowing how good you are, I guess.
That is a great way to say it. Yeah, just that like this is good.
Yeah, and I don't need to like amp it up for it to be better. This is good.
Yeah, and I don't need to talk you into thinking it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. You're gonna see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so good. Okay, let's get past this section that was so self-congratulatory. Oh my gosh.
I don't think it was. I think we're just talking about. I mean, that's the you know, the game of the whole thing I was saying when we were in the car. Like, I feel like I continually get better at not pushing because sometimes I feel like it's not happening. I need to push. I need to start running around. I need to start like getting it, and I'm getting better and better at being like, no, it'll happen.
Yeah.
You know, like we're doing great. It'll happen.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so funny at this late stage that you still just keep learning things and developing
Yeah.
and that's what's, that's a lot of what is fun about it to me. It's just kind of getting better at it.
Yeah, it just seems like every so often another door you didn't even know was there opens.
It's a great way to say it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we covered Jacob's gig and me sitting in chairs looking at computers, which is mostly my week.
Well, we didn't talk about you sitting in chairs looking at computers, but we can skip over that if it's
Well,
boring.
we could. I just
It's what you do all the time.
I sit in a room and record music a lot.
Yeah.
And that's what I did this week. And oh gosh, what was the last thing we were going to talk about?
New hire at Performance High.
That is right.
Yeah. So, again, a small world again. A drummer that I played with. I think I probably might have mentioned this guy on the podcast, but
You did. Yes, at Journey.
I played with the drummer Todd Carrasco at Journey Church, and we had a good hang. And then he said, "You should meet this guy I know, Paul." And so Paul and I were like, "Okay." We had a coffee. We liked each other, hit it off, and left it at like, "Well, hope we can work together someday in some capacity." Mm-hmm. And then a month later, I needed a new vocal coach, and he's a singer but not a coach yet. Haha. But he's got tons of other skills. He's old enough to be an entrepreneur, have had a very varied careers, have started multiple companies, and it's just luck and timing that he's open to more work right now, and he seems excited. I think because we have shared values, which is what it's all about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I officially sent him an offer letter last week, and we're gonna onboard on Tuesday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Keeps
Excited.
growing.
Yeah, so I gotta train a new teacher now. Good thing I have
Yeah.
a training program. We're just gonna speed through it at whatever pace he can absorb.
Well, and you said he's seemed like a very good singer and just hasn't necessarily done that exact role.
Yeah.
That is amazing, and like you said, it's all those connections that you just don't. You're like, cool, and then like who knows.
Yeah. Oh, he's connected to Joe Mondragon too.
Oh wow.
Yeah. He was a director of a production that Joe was in like 20 years ago, and Joe said, "Hire that guy yesterday." Like I told Joe about Paul, and Joe was like, "Get that guy on board right now."
Wow.
So
that's an endorsement.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Oh man. And then actually the other thing we were considering talking about on the podcast tonight is something that like I'm going to talk about it now, and it's going to seem like a bigger piece of reality than it has any right to be at the moment.
Right, because these are early days.
This idea came up yesterday. So this is a brand new idea. This is Fantasyland right now.
And as you said, this idea has not touched reality yet.
It has not.
Yeah.
And not in any sense.
But you've been enjoying
I'm enjoying this fantasy.
Yeah.
So a few commercial spaces have come up for rent at the intersection of Highway 36 and I-25.
Uh-huh.
So right in the corner. I mean, it is right there.
Yeah.
Right where those highways meet.
Yeah, it's I-10 in North Monroe.
Okay.
For my mom.
Oh. Okay.
That's where it is.
All right. So it's a great location, exactly halfway between Performance High Broomfield and Performance High Denver.
Right.
So it's still in Denver, but it's on the north side. So the location is great, and there's a number of spaces available from 600 square feet to like 4,000 square feet. And I am dreaming about just getting as much space as we want and building it out exactly the way we want. Recording studio for you, a little venue for little showcases, multiple band rehearsal studios, individual lesson studios for teachers so they can each have their own space and decorate it however they want. A common area where you can hang out. A little coffee station. A wall with like all the records you've worked on.
Yeah, right.
Who knows? I mean, we were just dreaming about it on the way home. And this goes hand in hand with how I feel like, in my mind, the sky has opened. Like, I'm feeling success. I'm seeing success. Performance High is doing well. And my fear around scarcity is going away.
Right.
And so something like this feels possible now. Also because these spaces that have opened up are pretty reasonably priced for Denver.
Right.
which may mean they don't have any air conditioning or heating.
Yeah, they may be really not built out at
Yeah,
all.
I think
but-
they may be complete shells, and you need to install a $30,000 HVAC system before you can actually work in it.
Right.
But I feel potential in a way that, I don't know. Right now, I mean, things always feel really exciting at the beginning. I feel potential in a way that I'm not sure I felt for any of the other spaces we've looked at. I have not looked at this space yet. So, fantasy world. I also would definitely need to get a loan or two.
But the idea of being, because we've talked about you and I've gone with you and we've looked at spaces, and they were mostly places where you were like, well, I think we could make this work.
Right. We could not use this room so that the two on the other side actually,
Right.
so that room could be used as a sound barrier between this room and that room, and we could make sure that band rehearsals don't happen before 6:00, and
Yeah, and then this could technically be a reception area, but it's it was always, but the idea of building out something as like, this is the space we want, this has got all the and then like we were talking about last week, the having a place for a community to be just builds that community, and the way sound structure was last Saturday, I think, and there was just so much buzz of like, there were a couple bands that were performance hype bands.
You were recording.
I was recording.
Jenna, we had a band rehearsal.
Yeah.
We had lessons going on. We had a class going on.
Right, a business class.
Yeah.
And just like having that all in one space, and the hum and the excitement of like there being all this, and then people running into each other in the halls, and like, I mean, that's a really fun thing to think about.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, so will this happen? I don't know. You say that sometimes the things that I dream about tend to just happen.
And again, maybe not always the way you imagined, but like,
Yeah.
if you sort of start putting an idea out there,
A lot of times it
a lot
happens.
of times happens. Yeah. So we have been having a blast, just
Yeah.
sort of like fantasizing about
Yeah.
all the different things we could do and all the different rooms and
Yeah. So now I need to get an estimate on. Well, we need to put together like, what is the ideal space? What does
Right.
it have? And then I do know a contractor that I water ski with who does soundproof rooms.
yeah.
He knows how to do them. He's very, very busy right now. He said he just got a bid he's putting in a bid for a $15 million project. So I'm not sure how ours is going to fit in his company, but
Yeah,
you
well,
know.
I mean, I don't know that you're going to spend $15 million.
maybe
might
not
only be
maybe.
half that.
Yeah. Boy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, nothing. Yeah, but again, like you said, the location is just, it's so central to just sort of the whole metro.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more of a drive if they're coming from the north, but 10 minutes maybe.
And it depends, actually, from downtown Boulder to this place we're talking about, and from downtown Boulder to the Broomfield studio, same drive time. No, wait.
Well-
Almost the same drive time. It's
Almost
like-
the same.
It's like 3 or 4 minutes longer.
Right, because you have to get to the current location, you got to get off the highway earlier
Yeah.
and use surface streets, and
Yeah.
and then if you're coming from the south, it's like one extra highway exit.
Yeah.
It's right there. So, and then you don't have to. The problem with our downtown location, it's super cool that it's downtown, but you have to deal with getting in and out of the downtown.
Yeah.
And when you picked me up Saturday night, and
Oh.
a concert had just let
yeah.
out, and it. Just getting out of downtown was like, it wasn't the end of the world, but it was a hassle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
let's close this one down once again. Who do we want to sponsor this one?
OCC Grill or whatever it was that we ate at. I don't know. Well, maybe we.
OCC Brewery in
brewery.
Old Colorado City. That's in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Beautiful scenery. Just walking down the street, you're just like, how is this just
Maybe
here?
Old Colorado City is sponsoring this.
Maybe Old Colorado City
Yeah.
is sponsoring this. I will get in touch with their Chamber of Commerce and I'll check.
that pile of money that they dump in the front yard.
Yeah, exactly.
week.
I'll tell them to
Okay.
back the truck up. And as always, we are sponsored by Performance High.
Voice and Music Studio.
You did it good this time.
Yeah. I waited until you finished the little round.
Last week was rough, man.
Did I go early?
I forget, but it was a train wreck.
Okay.
I mean, I did great, but anyway, guys, thank you so much, and we will talk to you next week.
All right. Bye.